Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock, and welcome to another edition of Sabbath Sunday. This is where Darin and I get together and we throw around some Black Sabbath topics. As you can see, I'm not in the lair today. I'm coming from a remote location, thus the different microphone, the different camera, but you can't stop rock and roll, so here we are. So for today's episode, we're going to be listing our 5 favorite Tony Iommi guitar solos. We've made a list of our favorite Iommi riffs. Now we thought, let's do our 5 favorite Tony Iommi guitar solos. A lot of times when people first think of Tony Iommi, they think of, rightfully so, as he is the godfather, the king of the heavy metal riff. But Tony's also an excellent soloist too. So we thought it would be fun to pick our 5 favorite Tony Iommi guitar solos. All right, Darin, what do you got for your first pick?
Okay, so these aren't in order as usual. This is not a ranking. This is just random solos that I personally like. I'm not rating them. I'm not qualifying them according to anything technical. I'm not a guitar player. I think I say that just about every other episode, but just to clarify, I'm not critiquing anything about the way that his technique or anything like that, or the difficulty of a particular solo. I'm talking about how the solos integrate within the song. That's what matters to me. And so at number 5, and again, this isn't in any particular order, but I have Wheels of Confusion. And what I like about this is it's one of the first songs where Tony Iommi does an extended guitar solo in the beginning of the song. And the song itself is so heavily weighted with the dark, bluesy vibe. It's almost unusual to begin in the album with a song that's number 1, is as long as Wheels of Confusion, and is as, I guess, dark and brooding. But one thing that really adds into the feeling in the mood that the song creates is Tony's solo in the beginning. I really like it. It just, the riff itself is really heavy and oppressive and dark and bluesy, and then the solo is just so mournful. It just pairs really well with the riff, and I really appreciate that. And when you put on Volume 4, it's always been one of the heaviest Black Sabbath albums for me. And when it starts off with Wheels of Confusion and you have the riff and that solo just cries along with the riff, man, it's so effective. So yeah, Wheels of Confusion definitely has to have a mention from me.
Yeah, that almost made my list. I love that too, that the way he's just sort of bending and holding those notes at the beginning is very, elastic and, like you said, mournful. I will say that I think Iommi is at his best when he is playing solos that are almost like riffs in themselves. When he tries to overextend himself and play too fast, sometimes it can sometimes, for me, sound like he's tripping over himself a little bit. So I always like him when he's playing these melodic signature type of lines, and the beginning of Wheels of Confusion is a good example of that. It's just him holding out these notes, but it's so melodic and so key to the song. But my first pick, I'm going to go with a song from that album. I'm going to go with Snowblind, and the sort of outro solo to that song, where he's doing these. This is sort of a signature Iommi thing, those fast like trills. Yeah. Bam, 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 bam. Just the way that song fades out in that guitar solo. It's a very epic song, and I think that solo at the end there, it's almost like one of those ones that you can sing along to, and you can't really imagine the song not having that there. And those are my favorite solos. There's times when Iommi it just sounds like he's just kind of going nuts on the fingerboard, and sometimes that works and it's appropriate for the song. But I always love when he does things that sort of fit the mood of the song. So for me, Snowblind gets on my list. The outro solo, the way the song sort of fades out, I think that's a great solo.
Yeah, it is. That almost made my list as well, but I went with Wheels of Confusion instead. But yeah, everything you mentioned about that, I agree with. I love the trills, and yeah, it's an integral part of the song. I can't imagine hearing the song without that solo. And likewise, for my next pick, N.I.B. Um, that has a very more melodic, refined approach that he involves with the song, and it's kind of early. And the impression I get is that um, with Tony's playing, he basically grew into becoming more of a competent guitar soloist. His real strength, as you mentioned early in your intro, is the riffs. I mean, nobody can deny that Tony Iommi is the master of the dark heavy metal riff. And so the solos kind of took a back seat to the riffs. You would hear some solos, and sometimes, actually more often than not, they had a tendency to be double tracked or even triple tracked from time to time, which makes it just kind of it would just fill space. You'd have a part in the song where, okay, well, this is where the guitar solo should be, and so Tony would seemingly fill it up with a lot of guitar. Um, with N.I.B, especially on the first album, and there is a lot of that guitar, um, for lack of a better word, noise, where there would be, otherwise a well-written solo. N.I.B is different. The solo in that is very melodic, has more of a refined approach, and it really serves the song. It's one of those solos, and I don't think there is another solo on the first album where you can actually sing it, and that's one of the things that I always look for uh, in a song as far as how I qualify the guitar solo. I I value it on the basis of whether or not if it wasn't there, would I miss it, or can I remember it? Can I
Yeah.
sing it? And with the solo on N.I.B, I can definitely, I would definitely, it would be conspicuously absent. And I can definitely sing it when I'm, replaying the song in my head. I can hear the solo. So may not be the most technically proficient solo of anything he's done, but to me, it's one of the most important.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, for me, I'm going to pick one from the Tony Martin era. I'm going to go with the song "Cross of Thorns." I've always loved that solo. I love that song. The way Martin, the band sort of drops out, and Martin goes "Cross of Thorns," and then the drums do that fill, and Iommi does this like slide
Yeah,
up on the guitar. Yeah, ba da da da, ba da da da. Again, he has like a little lick or a theme that he has that he
yeah.
sort of plays around with that, and I think it just fits into the song. And like you just mentioned in NIB, when he has that sort of riff within his solo or a
Mm.
theme within his solos, I think that those are his most his most memorable ones for me. So I went with Cross of Thorns for a little bit of a later era solo.
Cool, good one. So my next pick is probably the mother of all Tony Iommi guitar solo driven songs. Lonely is the Word. Just listened to that a little while ago. It made my list earlier in the week, but I wanted to listen to it again just because, I mean, there's a lot of other songs that I was thinking about. It's hard to just limit it to five because, I mean, there's a lot of songs, a lot of Black Sabbath songs, and of course Tony Iommi has a guitar solo on all of them. So it's a lot to listen to. There's a lot to take in. But on the other hand, the ones that come to mind are usually the ones that come to mind for a reason, that you remember them. But Lonely is the Word. I remember distinctly the first time I heard it and thought it was really a different style for Tony. Because you mentioned that a lot of solos can be really fast and almost like they're tripping over themselves. This has more of a laid back, and it does go through different progressions over the course of the song, but there's a lot of space, and Tony solos over the majority or at least half of the song. But it starts out kind of laid back, bluesy, and then it works up, and it does get more busy, but it works. It moves along with, I guess, the vibe of the song, and then of course there's the keyboards in the background that are sort of like a little bit of a choir effect, and that's sort of filling in the background, and Tony solos over that, so that it has a real emotional vibe to it. And there's a lot of solos. There's some solos before the vocals are completed, before the vocals end, and then when the vocals end, then Tony just takes the song out, rides it out in a really cool, again, melancholy way, not too much different from Wheels of Confusion as far as his approach on that, but there's just a lot more soloing on Lonely Is the Word. So
Yeah, and it's one that builds really nicely. I like the way he starts off very sparse, and he's almost playing like jazzy. That's another
yeah,
thing I actually like when you hear Iommi play, when his jazz influence comes through, like in Planet Caravan, for instance,
yeah,
or on the Live at Last album, when he solos in his solo spotlight there, and the band is sort of jamming behind him, and you can hear him if you hear bootlegs of them during the Earth or very early '69, Black Sabbath era, when they were playing a lot of blues in their sets.
the
And he really,
Dumfries.
yeah, the Dumfries recording,
69.
he had a really jazzy feel to his soloing style at times. So I think when he does play like that, it's really cool. And Lonely Is the Word makes me think of that a little bit at the beginning, and it builds really nicely. This solo gets more and more busy. All right, for my next pick, I'm going to go with the song Black Sabbath. At the end of the song, the whole song, I think, builds very well. And Iommi's solo is sort of the climax of the
Yeah,
song in a lot of ways. The way he's sort of at the beginning just playing like those sort of simple lines, and then he starts climbing up the neck, bam, 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 bam,
yeah,
bam, and it just gets more sort of busier. And then he comes back, crashing back down, and he's got the wah wah pedal on. I just think that's great, and it's a great. It's such a simple song. It's really, the verse and the chorus are the same chords. They're just the verse, the chords are quieter, the chorus, the chords are louder. The end of the song, the chord progression does change a little bit. It sort of does this descending thing, but it's a very straightforward song harmonically. But the band and Iommi do a lot with it, with the dynamics. And with his guitar solo at the end there, the way his guitar solo builds, I think just fits the mood of the song perfectly. So that made my list.
yeah, that's a good pick. Next for me is Turn Up the Night. Great opener. I love Mob Rules. We've talked about it a bunch of times. Kicking it off with Turn Up the Night, man, it's just, I love the bass, I love the production and everything. But Tony solos, and here is where you were talking about the fast solos, and sometimes it sounds like they're kind of tripping over themselves a little bit. There's a little bit of that here. There's a lot of it, and it really adds to the excitement, the frenetic energy to the song. The song is, it just kind of like barrels through, and then with Tony soloing, it just adds this element of excitement, like it's an album opener and the band's coming out, and everything just like opens up and Tony's going crazy. He's excited and playing fast, and again, there's nothing particularly stunning as far as any kind of technical prowess within this song, but there's a lot of solos. He just kind of like puts them here. There's like shooting fireballs or something. Just going along and just shooting out these like little licks and things, and then he has the solo towards the end, the main solo, I'd call it, where he's like leaning into the wah,
Yeah.
that really cool wah sound, and it just it just works really well in that song. So it's one of my favorites.
All right, speaking of wah wah pedals, my next choice is the solo in Shockwave, where it drops down to sort of a half tempo thing, and he's playing on his wah wah pedal. And this is one now where it's sort of the opposite of my other picks, where there are always these riffs within the solos or melodic lines. This one, he's just sort of shredding, but it just sounds so cool, especially when he first kicks in there. and he's like pressing on the pedal,
Yeah.
you know, and he's doing like some really fast, like pretty technical lines. Like I would say it's kind of funny, like some of Iommi's from a technical standpoint, some of his best playing is like on like Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy. Uh, he would also during the Martin era, he would have some moments like this where he just sounds like a flat out shredder, you know, like a guitar shredder. But here on Never Say Die, you know, we're talking it's 78 at this point. You know, maybe he's heard the first Van Halen record and he's influenced by that, or who knows. But I always just thought it was a super cool sounding solo, and the way he uses the wah-wah pedal on it, he just uses it to great effect there, and he's just sort of flying all over the neck. And I don't know, it's because of the wah-wah pedal, it makes it sound smoother than typically it sounds when Tony is soloing. So I just always really loved that solo.
So I guess I could actually put this at number one for me. This is one of my favorite, if not the favorite, Tony Iommi solo. And it comes off one of my favorite Black Sabbath albums, which anybody who tunes into our Sabbath Sundays or listens to our podcast probably is aware of the fact that it is Technical Ecstasy. Dirty Women. Love the solo on Dirty Women. Probably the highlight of the song. I mean, I love the heavy riff. I love the changes. I love the melodies and everything about the song. But I especially love the melodic, tasteful, very well phrased solo towards the end of the song. It's one of my favorite Tony Iommi. As much as I love the riff and as much as I love Tony's riffs overall, when I think about him as a solo guitar player, there's not a lot that I can say that, you know, really moves me in a way that when I'm listening to the song, that I can't wait until the solo comes up. Dirty Women is that song. I really look forward to hearing the solo. It's very tasteful, and I just love the feeling of it. So yeah, I knew when I was putting this list together that Dirty Women, I was going to start with Dirty Women and work down. You know, and the rest of them are pretty much in random order, but Dirty Women is number one for me.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And I mean, of course, pretty much from the time Technical Ecstasy came out, that song would be, and the end of the song would be a showcase for Iommi, even through the reunion era. You know, that was a song that they kept in the set list, and it was always a kind of a showcase for Tony. So yeah,
it's interesting too. You know, you listen to Pentagram, and we've referenced Stoner Rock, we've referenced Doom. We've never really got specifically into any particular or specific Doom bands, but I know that Victor Griffin definitely leans into borrowing a section of the solo of Dirty Women. And gosh, what song is it? I think it's not Burning Savior, Broken Vows.
yeah.
It's definitely something off of Day of Reckoning. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. The solo, when you hear it, it's like my ears, for the first time I heard it, perked up, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's familiar. What is that? And then it didn't take too long after that, and I figured out that it was Dirty Women. So I mean, I consider it more. I mean, I know Victor is a big Black Sabbath fan, particularly Tony Iommi. So I'm sure it was done more of homage to the master than it was trying to rip him off or to take something of Iommi's and try to pass it off as his own. I think it was done with complete and total homage. But the interesting side note to the solo on Dirty Women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, my number one pick, I had to go with this one because this is one that when it comes up in a concert, at least for the first part of the solo, everybody sings along with it. It's so epic. This is a moment that I wait for in this song. I may have heard this song too many times, but if I'm in my car and it comes on the radio, I still crank it up, and especially when it gets to this part. And so for me, my number one is the War Pigs solo, that outro solo, the bum bum ba da 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 it's like a riff in and of itself, you know, and it's so epic. And when he starts climbing up the neck and going off and going crazy, it's just fantastic. And it's sort of like the song Black Sabbath. It complements the song really well, and the song really builds up to that point. You know, if that was if those hooks weren't in there, if it didn't build the way he climbs up the neck and everything, and the way he gets busier as the solo goes on, if that wasn't there, the song, it wouldn't feel the same. You know what I mean? It would be a little incomplete or something, you know. And every now and then I see somebody on YouTube, or maybe I'm out and see a cover band play that song. And you know, we've said this, you know, Tony Iommi is not a guy with super shredder style lead playing. But when those type of guys play on a song like this, like War Pigs, and they're at the end of the song and they're throwing in all this fast Yngwie Malmsteen type stuff, it never ever works. It's never as good as, I've never seen anybody play War Pigs and play a different solo and I went, you know, that solo is actually better than Tony Iommi's solo. Never, you know. It's almost like, you know, these guys are cursed with too much chops. And and to hear that, it's so, and a proof of that is during the Ozzy era, Ozzy used to sing along with it. When Dio was in the band, Dio sang along with it. It's one of those spots that as soon as it kicks in, the crowd starts singing along, and it just builds so well, and it's just so perfect and works so well on that song. It's just a big epic conclusion to the song that I think is just, you know, fantastic.
Yeah, it really adds to the song. That's definitely an iconic solo, and I am, that almost made my list too. But my iconic solo, the song that represents the iconic solo for me would be the solo in N.I.B. But yeah, War Pigs, that solo, man, that's really important to the song. It's critical. And as far as like cover band, seeing a cover band, or even some of these compilations that come out where tribute to Black Sabbath, different artists, different well-known popular artists contributing to these things. It really depends on the level of commitment that you're putting into the original. If you're, you know, even like you see a band that's doing a cover, or you see a cover band or something, and they're doing a cover of War Pigs. Of course, they're doing it because it's an iconic metal song, and I don't know that they're really committed to trying to convey the same feeling as the original song, or if they're just playing it to play War Pigs. But if they're playing it to give you the full effect of hearing War Pigs, then you've got to nail the solo, because it's a big part of the song. And likewise, you know, you're talking about some guitar players that might do like the Malmsteen thing or something. It's like, yeah, it's like they're doing it because they can, you know, like maybe they don't understand, or maybe they do, but they just don't care about the vibe with the song, because they're not like, you know, a true fan that worships the song and hangs on every note. So they're like, well, you know, here's a solo part and I can do my thing, and I'll put my own input into the song and make it, you know, my own. And that's cool. So I mean, if that's the mindset, well, then, you know, more power to you. But from the listening and enjoyment standpoint, it's pretty critical for me to get that vibe across. So if I'm listening to War Pigs and somebody's doing a cover of it, you know, I'm going to expect to hear that, you know, and if I don't, I'm going to be disappointed, or I'll just toss it aside. Good, but not good enough.
All right, well, there we go. We had 10 or our 5 favorite each, Tony Iommi solos. So we could have picked a lot more. Let us know in the comments down below what everybody out there thinks of our picks. Let us know what some of your picks for your favorite Tony Iommi solos are. And make sure you check out our podcast, Into the Void, a Black Sabbath podcast. And we will see you at the next Sabbath Sunday.